The sky was red with fire. Smoke curled above the battlefield, thick and choking. The cries of the wounded echoed across the broken hills. Metal clashed with metal. The ground was soaked with blood, some red, some blue, and in the center of it all, she lay in the dirt, weak, bleeding, defeated. Her name was Varelli, a young alien warrior. Her skin shimmered like silver under the ash, and her long braid was tangled with dried blood and dust. Her left arm hung limp, wounded from a human blade. Her squad was gone. Dead. Every one of them. The ambush they planned had failed. Horribly. Now, she knelt in the mud with a human standing over her. He was tall. His armor was scratched and stained. His visor cracked, revealing part of his face's sharp jaw, tired eyes. He held a long combat knife in his hand. His boots made a soft crunch in the dirt as he stepped closer. Varelli didn't move. She stared up at him with hatred and fear. She had heard stories about humans, monsters, cold-blooded killers, ruthless soldiers who never took prisoners. Her people called them Deathwalkers. The name came from how humans move through war zones, silent, fast, and deadly. And now one stood over her. She closed her eyes. "Go on," she whispered in her language. "Do it." He didn't answer. A long silence stretched between them. Only the distant sound of fire and gunshots filled the air. Varelli waited for the sharp pain, for the blade to cut through her throat, but it never came. Instead, she felt something strange. Warmth. Her eyes snapped open. The human had dropped to one knee beside her. He wasn't holding the knife anymore. Instead, he pulled something from his pack. A small bottle. A cloth. Bandages. What was he doing? She flinched as he reached for her wounded arm. "Stay still," he said calmly. His voice was deep but soft. He spoke in Galactic Standard, the shared tongue used in war negotiations. "Not here to kill you," Varelli's mind screamed trap. But her body didn't move. Too weak. Too shocked, he poured the clear liquid on her wound. It burned. She gasped, pulling back, but he held her gently. "Easy," he muttered. "It's disinfectant. Your blood smells like acid soup." She looked at him wide-eyed. This made no sense. Wasn't he finishing her? Why are you doing this?" she asked. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he began wrapping the bandage around her arm, carefully, like he'd done this 100 times before. "Because I've seen enough people die today," he finally said. "And you don't need to be one of them." Varelli stared at him like he was mad. Was this mercy, pity, or something worse? He stood, wiping his hands on his pants. Then he looked down at her again. "Can you walk?" She blinked. "What?" I asked. "Can you walk?" He repeated, "I don't." She shook her head. "Why would you ask me that?" "Because I'm not leaving you here," he said. "We're moving before the next dropship arrives. No. If you can't walk, I'll carry you." Her mouth opened, then closed. This wasn't war. This wasn't how enemies acted. He turned, glanced around, then reached down again. Without waiting, he slipped one arm under her legs and another behind her back, lifting her like she weighed. "Nothing, no?" she shouted, weakly pushing against him. Put me down. I am not your—" Yeah, he muttered, ignoring her. "Save your strength. You're not a prisoner. And you're not dead? That's a good day where I come from." As he walked through the burning field, carrying her in his arms, Varelli trembled, not from pain, not from fear, but from confusion. She had expected the human to kill her, but he did something completely different, and that scared her more than death ever could. When Varelli opened her eyes again, the world was no longer burning. There was no fire, no screams, no scent of blood in the air, just quiet. And warmth. Her body jerked upright, but pain slammed into her shoulder like a hammer. She gasped and collapsed back down onto soft fabric. She blinked. A cot. The ceiling above her wasn't made of rock or sky, it was canvas, tanklered, military. Her eyes darted around the small tent. A portable heater buzzed in the corner. A jug of water stood beside a metal chair. Clean, organized. Too clean, and then the truth hit her like a cold slap. She was in a human military camp. Her breath caught in her throat. Her heart thumped like war drums. Was this a prison? She tried to move but found her arm tied with soft bandages. Her wounds were treated. Her armor had been stripped. She wore loose gray clothing not her own. Braid was undone. She had no weapon, no dignity, no escape. The flap of the tent suddenly opened. Light poured in, and with it came the man who had spared her life, the human soldier. Same face, same sharp eyes. No helmet this time. Stark hair, messy and damp with sweat. His armor was lighter now, and he held something in his hands. A steaming bowl. Varelli tensed, eyes narrowing. "You've taken me prisoner." "No," he said calmly. "If you were a prisoner, you'd be in a cage, not a cot." He placed the bowl of soup on the table near her and sat down. She stared at him. "Then what is this?" He shrugged. "A camp, a safe one. You needed medical help? You got it. End of story." "Why?" she hissed. "Why save me?" He didn't answer at first. Instead, he pulled off his gloves and reached into his pocket, taking out a small device. He set it on the table and turned it on. A holographic image flickered to life. Woman. Human. Smiling. Holding a baby. Laughing. Varelli didn't understand. "That's my sister," the human said softly. "And that's her kid. I've seen too much death lately. It's too many people like you lying in the dirt, not breathing. I just... ... I couldn't let it happen again." Varelli said nothing. She didn't know what to say. The human stood up. "Eat. Rest. No one's going to hurt you here." He walked to the flap of the tent, but paused before leaving. "Oh, and if you try to run, don't. There are others here who won't be as nice." Then he left. The silence returned. Varelli stared at the soup. Poison? Trick? Or just... ... food? Stomach growled. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Slowly, carefully, she reached out with her good hand. The soup smelled odd but not unpleasant. She took one cautious sip. Warm. She took another. Still alive. She finished half the bowl before pushing it away and sitting back, her head spinning with questions. Why would a human, a death walker, treat her with kindness? Why wasn't she dead? Outside, she heard laughter. Not cruel, but relaxed. Human soldiers talking, sharing stories. Somewhere, someone played soft music on an old speaker. She could hear the clatter of dishes, the sizzle of food. It's not a prison. A home, but she wasn't part of it. She didn't belong here. Not yet. Meanwhile, outside the tent, Captain Elias stood near the command tent, speaking with a young officer. "Sir," the officer said, nervous, "you're going to get court-martialed. Keeping an alien enemy alive without authorization, it's against every protocol." Elias sighed, looking toward Varelli's tent. "She's not an enemy. She's a scared girl who got caught in someone else's war." The officer shook his head. "The general's arriving tomorrow." "If he finds out, I'll handle it," Elias cut in. And deep down, he knew. That moment on the battlefield when he'd seen her ready to die, it had changed something in him. She wasn't just another alien. She was proof that the war might be built on lies. Back inside, Varelli leaned her head against the tent wall, whispering in her own language. "I don't understand you, human, but I think you might be the most dangerous one of all." The stars above the camp were sharp and cold. Varelli sat in silence on the edge of the cot, listening. The tent walls whispered with the wind, but the human camp outside had fallen mostly quiet. No more marching boots, no more laughter. Just the low buzz of generators and the distant click of metal on metal. She hadn't slept. Couldn't sleep. Not here, not with them. Every sound felt like a trap. Every quiet moment felt like the calm before something worse. And worse was always coming. Her body ached, but her mind was sharp-trained since childhood. Alien warriors were taught to read every detail, every silence, every breath. She had watched the humans for 2 days now from inside her tent. They weren't cruel, but they were careful. Like they were hiding something. So tonight, she decided. To find out what, she slipped from the cot, wrapped her injured arm tight to her side, and moved to the back flap of the tent. It was unguarded, untied. A mistake, or a test. She took the risk. Outside the air was cold, ground was soft with dust. She moved fast and low, using the shadows like her instructors had taught her. No alarms, no shouts, not yet. She crept behind supply crates, ducked under cables, and finally reached the central command tent. That's where Elias, the human who had spared her, spent most of his time. She didn't know what she expected to find, but what she heard changed everything. Voices, the flap of the tent was slightly open. She pressed her ear close. Inside, Elias was speaking quietly with another. Human older. His uniform marked with gold bars. A high-ranking officer? He's coming tomorrow, the officer said. The general, you know what that means? I know, Elias said, his voice low. But I'm not handing her over. You don't have a choice, the officer snapped. That alien girl is a classified threat. We're not here to make friends. You're risking everything. She's not a threat, Elias replied. She's a kid, scared out of her mind. She doesn't even know why her people attacked. That's not your call to make. Was a pause. Then Elias said something that made Varelli freeze. I'll fake her death if I have to. What? I'll tell them she died from her wounds. Burn her uniform, scatter her armor, say she didn't make it. But I won't hand her over to the general's torturers. I won't. You're going to throw away your career for her? Look me in the eyes, Elias said, and she expected pain. Death. And I gave her mercy. That means something. If it doesn't, then maybe I'm in the wrong army. Outside the tent, Varelli's heart raced. He wasn't just protecting her. He was lying for her, defying his own people, his own military. Why? She didn't know if it was bravery or madness. She stepped back, but her foot slipped on a loose rock. Clicked inside, both voices went silent. Did you hear that? Elias said. Varelli bolted. She sprinted through the shadows, back toward her tent, pain burning through her side. Lights switched on behind her. Voices shouted. Motion near command. Find the source. She dove into her tent just before boots. Stomped past the flap. She lay perfectly still under the blanket, pretending to sleep. Her breath caught in her throat as flashlights. Passed just inches from her face through the thin fabric. Then waited again. She waited 5 more minutes before she finally let out the breath she had been holding. Later that night, Elias entered. The tent, he said nothing at first. Stood there, watching her. She kept her eyes closed, still pretending to sleep. I don't know if you heard anything tonight, he said quietly. What? But if you did, I hope you understand I'm not your enemy. Pause. I just want to stop the war. Maybe you do too. Walked out. Varelli opened her eyes. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. She just stared at the tent, ceiling, realizing the most dangerous thing wasn't being hunted by humans. What? It was being protected by one. The calm didn't last. By morning, dark thunderclouds rolled above the mountains. But it wasn't the weather that made the air feel heavy. It was the arrival of the one man even Elias couldn't defy forever, General Corin Vale. His dropship landed hard. Engines screaming, stirring up dust like a storm. Soldiers scrambled to line up, saluting sharply as the tall, armored man stepped out. His face was cold, square, and unmoved by emotion. His coat flapped in the wind like a war banner. And behind him marched to silent, black-clad enforcers. One in camp smiled. Not even Elias. From her tent, Varelli watched the scene unfold through a narrow slit in the canvas wall. Her body tensed at the sight of the general. Even from this distance, she felt it. This man didn't see people. He saw strategy, tools, threats. Nothing more. Varelli stepped back. Her instinct screamed. Run, hide, survive. Inside the command tent, General Vale stood silently for a moment, scanning the map table. Elias stood beside him, tense. Then the general finally spoke. Where is it? Elias blinked. Sir, the alien, the female, your team reported saving. Where is it now? Elias kept his voice calm. She died from her wounds, sir, 2 days ago. General Vale slowly turned his head, eyes narrowing. Show me the body. There wasn't much left. The medics incinerated the remains. Standard protocol. Vale said nothing. The entire tent went silent. Then he laughed. But there was no humor in it. You expect me to believe you just threw away the body of a live specimen without informing high command? She was dying, Elias replied, and I made a field decision. That wasn't your right. I thought it was the right thing. Vale stepped closer, his voice like ice. Let me explain something, Captain. You're not here to do the right thing. You're here to follow orders. Elias didn't flinch. Outside, Varelli knew she didn't have much time. He was looking for her. She could feel it in the way the camp change guards moved differently. Drones buzzed more overhead, and even the birds had gone quiet. Then a soldier entered her tent. Young, nervous, he stared at her, eyes starting. Get up, he said. Now, she rose slowly. Where are you taking me? To the medical unit. Just don't talk, all right, please. She didn't argue. Something in his eyes told her he knew. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he pitied her. Either way, she followed. But they didn't go to the medical unit. The soldier led her behind the storage crates, near the waste incinerator. There, in the shadows, Elias was waiting. He looked different now. Angry, tired, Varelli. He said quietly, Listen to me. General suspects. He wants to see your body, and I told him you're already gone. She tilted her head. So, what happens now? I don't know. You should give me to him, she said. If he finds out you lied, I know what happens if he finds out, Elias snapped. Then he took a deep breath and softened. His voice. But I won't do it. I can't. Why not? Elias looked at her. You still think this war makes sense? That we're monsters and your side is holy? But I see it now. We're just pawns. You, me, all of us. She looked away. If we get caught, she said, he'll kill you. Maybe. I should be afraid. I am. They both fell. Silent. Then Elias looked toward the smoldering bin behind them and pulled out something wrapped in Cloth Varelli's old armor. Burned. Melted. We're going to stage it, he said. Leave this here. Let the drones pick up the scraps. Then, you disappear. Disappear where? There's a convoy leaving tonight. Supplies headed for a neutral research post near the border. You'll go with them. No one checks those crates. I've arranged it. Varelli hesitated. And you? I stay. She blinked. You're risking your life for me? Why? Elias gave a weak smile. Because the moment I saw you on that battlefield, I realized you didn't want to be there. It's just like me. That night, as the camp went dark and the wind howled across the barren hills, a single supply truck rolled. Out through the northern gates, inside, hidden beneath sealed crates, Varelli lay still. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel like a soldier or a prisoner. She felt like a life someone believed in. The road was long, silent, and full of shadows. Varelli lay curled inside a cargo crate. Her breathing slow, her pulse steady. Every bump of the truck, every rattle of metal above her made her tense. The human convoy was heading through disputed, territory-neutral ground where no alien or human army had official control. But control didn't matter out here. Only survival did. Her fingers brushed against the small datapad hidden in her tunic. Elias had given it to her before the truck left camp. Use this to signal once you're clear, he had said. I'll send new coordinates. We meet again near the border 48 hours. She hadn't asked what would happen if he didn't show. Up, she already knew the answer. Hours later, the truck stopped. The door opened, a sharp light hit her eyes. She almost reached for a weapon, and remembered she had none. A shadow climbed in. Not a soldier, a mechanic. It's a woman. She stared straight at Varelli, and gave a slight nod. Then she turned, slammed the crate shut again, and yelled, Clear! Nothing but fuel cores in this one. The engine roared. The truck kept moving. Varelli. exhaled. Someone else was helping. Elias wasn't alone. 30-6 hours later, the truck finally slowed for good. The doors opened to a rocky outpost with silver domes and blinking towers. The humans here wore white suits, not armor. Scientists, researchers, quiet people who didn't ask questions. Cleaner escorted Varelli into a storage unit without a word, and for the first time in weeks, she stood alone, truly alone. She looked around at the empty metal room, a flickering panel in the corner, no chains, no guards, no battlefield. She leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. What now, meanwhile? Captain Elias stood in front of General Vale again. The general stared at the charred remains of Varelli's armor laid out before him. This is all that's left? Vale asked. Yes, sir, Elias said, calm. The body was beyond recognition, burned during a fire in the med bay. Faulty wiring. Vale didn't blink, and the logs. Deleted in the system error, sir. Vale stepped forward, towering over Elias. I hope for your sake you're not lying to me, Captain. I'm not, sir. A long pause. Then Vale turned to his enforcers. Double-check everything. If he lied, I want his bones buried under a court-martial. Elias didn't move. He didn't speak. But inside, the clock had started ticking. He had to get out. Soon, back at the research. Outpost .vir, Eli waited. The datapad buzzed once. Just a blinking arrow. No words. Move. She followed the path that led her through the old canyon ruins behind the outpost. Rock walls climbed high around her. Her feet moved quietly. She barely breathed. Then she saw him. Captain Elias stood at the edge of a dry riverbed, who'd pulled over his head, a backpack on the ground beside him. She walked up slowly. You came, she said. Did you doubt it? She gave a small smile. Only a little. He handed her a canteen. We've got one shot. There's an old shuttle port just beyond the cliffs, abandoned. But if we reach it, I can get us off this moon, away from this war. And then what? Disappear? To where he shrugged. Anywhere that doesn't ask questions? Anywhere with peace? Varelli paused. Why are you doing this? Elias looked at her, quiet. For the same reason I didn't kill you the first time. Looked down. There were so many things she didn't understand about humans, but this one. He didn't fight for victory. He fought for something else. Hope, as they moved under the stars. Hiding from sensors and patrols, they didn't speak much. But something had changed. Not trust. Not yet. But something like it. They weren't soldier. An enemy anymore? They were two people running from the same storm, and they only had each other now. The cliffs were silent, but the silence felt wrong. Varelli walked beside Elias as they climbed the jagged hills. The rocky paths scraped their boots, and wind howled through the narrow canyons like whispers of ghosts. Every few steps, Elias checked his scanner, and every few seconds, Varelli checked the sky. They were close now, just a few kilometers from the hidden shuttle port, Elias had mentioned. Freedom was so near, she could almost feel it, but something wasn't right. Her instincts buzzed in her chest like a warning bell. Then she heard it, a faint click, then another. She froze. Too late, shadows exploded from the rocks around them. Alien warriors, her people, armored. Masked, silent. They raised their weapons at Elias. Varelli's heart stopped. No. She shouted, stepping in front of him. A spear gun whirred, then stopped. Aimed at her instead. One of the masked figures stepped forward and pulled off their helmet. A female, older, with a scar down her jaw and gold beads in her hair. Commander. Varelli, she said coldly in their native tongue. You've been hard to find. Varelli couldn't believe her eyes. Commander Sia? The woman nodded. Double quotes. We received your signal. The old beacon hidden in your armor, you activated it. I didn't. Varelli froze. She looked down at the tunic Elias had given her. It wasn't just clothing. It had her armor's core chip sewn inside. Her own side had tracked her. Not Elias. She had led them here. The commander's eyes narrowed at Elias. You are the human, she asked. The one who captured our warrior? I didn't capture her, Elias replied, raising his hand slowly. I saved her. Lies. He's telling the truth, Varelli said. He didn't harm me. He protected me. He gave me a choice. Sia's face twisted. And what choice did you make? To run away with a human? To betray your blood? It's not betrayal, Varelli said softly. It's survival. Survival, the commander hissed. You ran from duty. You allowed yourself to be tamed by this Deathwalker. Forgot what they did to our cities. Our children. Varelli's hands shook. I didn't forget. But killing every human won't bring them back. She's been corrupted. Another soldier muttered. Take them both, Sia ordered. Alive. Weapons rose. Elias didn't move. Varelli stepped between him and the blades. No, she said. You'll have to go through me. Sia narrowed. Her eyes. Are you protecting him? A human? I'm protecting the only person who saw me as more than a weapon? A long silence. Then Sia raised her hand. But before she could speak, Elias acted. Boom. A flash grenade exploded in his hand, blinding everyone. Varelli screamed as white light consumed the shadows. Gunfire echoed, rocks shattered. Our Eli was pulled into strong arms and dragged behind a boulder. Elias grabbed her wrist. Run, now. Together, they sprinted down the hill as the aliens fired. Behind them, dirt flew past her face. Spear clipped her shoulder. Blood trickled. But she didn't stop. Not this time. Not again. They ran. They didn't stop until the cliffs were far behind them, and the sounds of chasing boots faded into the wind. Elias collapsed beside a broken pillar near the shuttleport ruins. He was breathing hard, hands scraped, cheek bleeding. Varelli stared at him. You planned that, she said. I had a backup plan, he replied between breaths, just in case you didn't trust me. I trusted you, Elias said. Looking at her, I didn't trust the people tracking you. She sat beside him, head in her hands. I thought I was escaping, she whispered, but I brought them to you. He gave a tired smile. You didn't betray me. They did. She looked at him, eyes filled with something more than pain, shame, guilt, and maybe sorrow, Elias, she said quietly. We don't have many chances left. I know. We should go now, before they find us again. He nodded, and together they stood, two fugitives, chased by both sides, but still choosing each other. The ruins of the old shuttleport were quiet, too. Quiet. Elias adjusted the last of the power cells beneath the ancient craft's belly, sweat dripping down his brow. The ship was old, rusted, and barely holding together. But it had fuel, a working engine, and a chance. A small chance. But better than none? Above him, Varelli stood watch, pulse gun in hand. Her shoulder still bled from the earlier ambush, but she ignored the pain. Her eyes scanned the horizon with calm focus. They had less than an hour, maybe less. I rerouted the ignition, Elias said, climbing up from the pit. She'll fly once. Once is enough, Varelli replied. They looked at each other for a moment, two warriors from different worlds. Now, fugitives with nowhere left to hide, and then they heard it. Engines, dozens of them, coming fast. Elias swore under his breath, they found us. Varelli didn't move. She didn't run. She stepped forward and raised her hands. I'll talk to them, she said. Elias grabbed her arm. They won't listen. They will. No, they'll shoot. First, just like always. She turned to him, eyes glowing in the last golden light of the dying sun. Then they'll see me standing beside you, unarmed, not afraid. Maybe that's what it takes to make them listen. Before he could stop her, she walked out alone too. The open ground, the dropships arrived like thunder. Dust filled the air. Lights blazed down on her. Armed troops stormed from both sides, human and alien. They had found each other at the same time, guns raised. Orders shouted, all aimed at her, and still, Verily stood tall. I am not your enemy, she shouted, her voice echoing across the stone. No. One moved, then Elias stepped out beside her, unarmed, exposed. He walked to her side, ignoring the red laser dots on his chest. "If you want to shoot someone," he said, "shoot me. I helped her. I hit her. I lied for her. So take your revenge." Still silence. The commanders on both sides stared in disbelief. A human and an alien. It's not fighting, not killing. Just standing together. From the human ranks, General Vale stepped forward. Helmet off. Face cold. Voice sharp. "You betrayed your own," he said. "I followed something bigger," Elias replied. "You wouldn't understand. I understand treason. And I understand mercy." "On the alien side, Commander," Sia growled. "This isn't peace, it's weakness." "No," Varelli said. "It's proof that the war has blinded us. That we forgot how to see." "We'll never accept this," Sia said. "You don't have to," Varelli replied. "But your soldiers see it. Your people hear it. This moment is already changing. Everything." Vale raised a hand. Enough. His fingers twitched. Elias saw it. He was about to give the order. "Don't," Elias said quietly. "If you kill us now, you win nothing. But if you let us go, people will remember that." Vale hesitated just for a second. Then he lowered his hand. "I never saw you," he said. Sai growled. "You can't just—" "I said, never saw them," Vale repeated. Louder he turned and walked back toward his dropship. On the alien side, Sia cursed under her breath. Then, without another word, she turned and disappeared into the dust. And just like that, the guns lowered. One by one, no shots fired, no war today, just silence and the sound of peace no one planned for later. As the stars returned and the shuttle engines roared to life, Elias looked at Varelli one last time before launch. "Where do you want to go?" he asked. She looked at the stars. "Anywhere. No one knows our names." He smiled. "Then let's disappear." The shuttle lifted off, flames casting long shadows over the broken port. Below them, two armies stood still watching. Some confused, some angry. But most thoughtful, because in a war built on fear, two people chose something different.